Under the Oshodi Bridge, a scream sliced through the roar of cars, sharp, desperate, human. Heads turned for a split second, then snapped back. No one stopped, except Amara. She dropped to her knees in her tattered ash gown, the hem already brown with dust. Her hair was messy and loose around her face. In her hands was her only meal for the day, a small takeaway of jollof rice and a bottle of water. A kind stranger had helped her by. "Ma, can you hear me?" Amara whispered. The old woman's lips were dry. Her eyes were half shut. She did not answer. Amara sat on the bare ground and pulled the woman gently onto her lap. She opened the food, scooped a small spoon of warm rice, and blew on it softly. "Please try," she begged. The woman swallowed once, then again, slow, painful, like each bite was a small climb up a hill. Cars kept passing, shoes kept walking by. Someone hissed, someone laughed. No one helped. Amara kept feeding. When the last grain was gone, she opened the bottle and placed it at the woman's lips. The woman drank, coughed, and then finally spoke in a thin, shaking voice. "Thank you, my daughter. You saved me." Amara held her a little tighter. "You're safe now. Tell me, do you have someone I can call?" The old woman blinked as if pulling a name from far away. "My son Anderson," she said a number slowly, carefully, as if the digits were the only bridge she had back to life. Amara's heart kicked. She reached into her small plastic bag and brought out her little phone, the one with cracks across the screen. Her fingers shook as she dialed. The line picked. A deep, calm voice said, "Who is this?" "My name is Amara," she said, trying to sound brave. "I found your mother at the Oshodi Underbridge. I fed her my food, but she needs help. Please come now." There was a long, quiet beat on the other end of the line, a silence full of fear. Then the voice came back, sharp and awake. "Stay with her. I'm on my way." Amara looked down at the woman on her lap. "Your son is coming." The old woman tried to smile, a weak, grateful curve of the lips. Then her eyes fluttered shut. Cut. Before this day, before the plate of jollof, before the phone call that would change her life, Amara had been a girl with a bright future and a brand new dress for her graduation day. Her parents had promised to come. They had promised to clap the loudest. They had promised to take a photo with her beside the school gate in Surler with her holding the prize for best student. She had planned the pose. She had practiced the smile. They never made it. There was a crash. There were neighbors at the door. There was a race to the hospital. There were whispers. And then there were no more promises. Everything after that felt like a long, dark night. Her Aunt Adana wore stiff clothes and a hard face. Her Uncle Namdi spoke with a smooth tongue that felt like cold oil. They told everyone that Amara's late father owed them money. They sold the house. They took what little was left. And when Amara cried and asked where she would sleep, they turned their backs and shut the gate. She slept at the bus stop that night, hugging her school bag like a small shield. The days after were a harsh drumbeat. Wake up early, find a safe corner, watch your bag, beg for food, hope for kindness, avoid danger. Some days kindness came in a plastic bowl, someone's leftover rice, a piece of bread, a bottle with only a few sips of water. Some days kindness did not come at all. Amara kept a small dream hidden in her chest like a flame cupped in two hands. She still wanted to be a doctor. She wanted to help people live. She wanted to stand in a white coat and say, "You will be okay, but dreams like fires need air." Under the bridge, air was thin. The day she found the old woman, Amara had not eaten since morning. A man in a clean white shirt had pressed some naira into her palm and said, "Use it well?" She had bought jollof rice and water and told herself she would eat slowly, make it last until night. Then she saw the woman on the ground. It felt like the whole world asked a question. "What will you do now?" Her feet moved before her fear could speak. She went to the woman. She gave her the food. She gave her the water. She gave her her lap. Now the woman's son was coming. Amara brushed dust from the woman's forehead. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Please stay." A black SUV slid to a stop near the bridge. The door opened fast. A tall man stepped out in a crisp navy suit with worry in his eyes and power in his walk. A driver rushed around with a blanket. "Mother!" the man cried, kneeling. He touched the woman's cheek and his voice broke. "Mama, can you hear me?" The old woman's eyelashes trembled. "Anderson," she breathed, barely a sound. He looked up at Amara. For a second, his face changed surprise, then relief, then something like respect. "You called me?" "Yes," Amara said, her voice small. She was alone. "I gave her my food." His jaw tightened. "Thank you." The driver wrapped the blanket around the woman. Anderson lifted his mother as if she were made of glass. "We're going to the hospital," he said. He turned to Amara. "Please come with us." "Me?" Amara blinked. No one ever asked her to come. People usually told her to go. "Yes? You found her? I need you to tell the doctors what happened." His voice was firm but kind. "Please." Amara nodded and climbed into the car. The seats were soft. Too soft. She sat on the edge, hands tight on the bottle of water. The city flew by in a rush of horns and light. Inside the SUV, the old woman's breathing was a thin thread. "Hold on, Mama," Anderson whispered. "Hold on," Amara echoed. They reached Lagos Medical Center. Nurses came. A stretcher rolled, bright lights, fast beeps, sharp smells. Someone asked questions. Amara answered in short, careful bursts. She was under the bridge, weak. I fed her. Water a little better, then sleepy. Phone call. We came. Doctors nodded. The old woman disappeared behind swinging doors. Anderson finally turned fully to Amara. In the clear light of the hospital, his face looked older, not by age, but by worry. His eyes were deep brown, and in them Amara saw a storm, struggling to be still. "Thank you," he said again. "Softer now? I've been searching for her for a week. She went to the market and never came back." "A week?" Amara repeated, shocked. "Yes," he swallowed. "This is my fault. I should have been with her. I should have." His voice cracked and he stopped. Amara shook her head quickly. "It's not your fault." He studied her, really seeing her. The dusty dress, the thin arms, the tired eyes that still held a small, stubborn light. "How old are you?" 19. "And your parents?" "Gone," she said. Simple and plain. There was no other way to tell it. Something in his face softened. "I'm sorry." "It's okay," she lied. "Because sometimes that is what you say when the truth is too heavy." They sat in the hard chairs. Minutes felt like hours. The hospital air hummed. A nurse walked by. A baby cried somewhere down the hall. An old clock ticked on the wall, steady and slow. "Whatever happens," Anderson said suddenly, "I will help you. You didn't pass by my mother. You saved her. That matters." Amara stared at the floor. Her throat felt tight. No one had promised her help in a very long time. The swing doors opened at last. A doctor in green scrubs stepped out, mask hanging under his chin. He looked at Anderson first, then at Amara, as if measuring the size of their hope. "How is she?" Anderson asked, standing up so fast his chair scraped the floor. The doctor took a breath. "She's very weak. She has signs of dehydration and shock. We've started fluids and are running tests. We need to watch her closely." "Will she make it?" Amara asked, her voice thin as paper. The doctor's eyes were kind but careful. "We are trying our best." A sudden alarm sounded from inside the room, a hard, urgent beeping that cut the hallway like a knife. The doctor spun around. "Stay here." He dashed back through the doors. Nurses ran. Someone shouted, "She's crashing." Another voice called for the crash card. The beeping turned wild. Anderson froze, hands clenched into fists. Amara took one step toward the swinging doors, her heart banging against her ribs, and whispered the only word she could find. "Mama!" The doors slammed shut. The beeping inside the hospital room echoed like a drum of fear. Nurses rushed, voices sharp and quick. "Clear!" one shouted. Anderson froze, his fists locked tight, his lips moving in silent prayer. Amara pressed her palms together, whispering, "God, please don't take her." Then suddenly the beeping steadied. The wild sound became a slow, regular rhythm. The crash of footsteps quieted. A doctor's voice called out, "Firm, but calmer. She's stabilizing." Anderson staggered back into his chair, his breath leaving in one heavy rush. His eyes glistened. He turned to Amara, and for the first time, he let a single tear escape down his cheek. "She's alive," Amara said softly, as if testing the words. Anderson nodded, swallowing hard. "Yes, thanks to you, the next 2 days were a blur." Anderson barely left his mother's bedside. Amara, though shy at first, became a quiet presence in the hospital room, bringing water, adjusting pillows, whispering gentle words into Madame Margaret's ear even when she slept. And then one morning, her eyes opened, weak but alive. "Amara," she whispered, her lips curving in a small smile. "My daughter of kindness." Amara smiled back, tears filling her eyes. She had not heard the word daughter spoken with such warmth in years. Anderson leaned forward, gripping his mother's hand. "Mama, I thought I lost you." Her voice trembled as she explained what had happened. "I was returning from the market. They grabbed me, men in a van. They took my bag, my jewelry, everything. Then they pushed me out onto the road. I wandered until my strength failed and no one looked at me except her." Her finger pointed to Amara. Anderson turned to her again. Gratitude, respect, and something else. Something unspoken shone in his eyes. "We owe you everything." Amara shook her head quickly. "Please don't say that. I only did what my parents would have wanted me to do." Her voice broke a little. "They always told me, never walk past someone who needs help." Madame Margaret's eyes softened. "And look how God sent you to me." 2 days later, when Madame Margaret was strong enough to leave the hospital, Anderson insisted Amara join them in their car. The SUV rolled past the gates of a vast white mansion with iron gates tall as trees. The walls gleamed. A fountain sparkled in the front yard, water catching the late afternoon Sunday. Amara's breath caught in her throat. She pressed her back into the leather seat, feeling smaller with every passing second. "This is not my world," she thought. "This is another planet." The driver opened her door. Her legs trembled as she stepped out, her torn sandals brushing the clean marble floor of the compound. Inside, chandeliers glittered above her head. Walls stretched high, decorated with paintings in golden frames. A spiral staircase wound upward like something from a dream. Amara stood frozen, her small bag clutched in both hands, afraid to take one wrong step. "Welcome home," Anderson said gently. She shook her head quickly. "No, sir. This is not my home. My home is under the bridge," Anderson frowned. "Never again," he said firmly. "Tell me everything. Tell me how a girl as smart as you ended up in a place like that." The weight of the question pressed down on her chest. For a long moment she could not speak. But when Madame Margaret touched her shoulder with a motherly hand, the story spilled out. She told them about her parents' accident, how her Aunt Adana and Uncle Namdi had stolen everything, how they had sold the house and thrown her out into the streets. She told them about begging, about the hunger, about nights too cold to sleep. And when she spoke of her dream of becoming a doctor, her voice cracked with shame. "I wanted to heal people. I wanted to wear the white coat. But dreams don't survive under the bridge." Her eyes filled with tears. "I've lost too much. I've become too old too quickly." The room fell silent. Anderson's jaw tightened, his fists clenched. But this time, not with fear. This time with anger. "You will not lose that dream," he said finally, his voice steady, like a man who had already made up his mind. "Not while I am alive." Amara's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Anderson continued, "from today, your life changes. You saved my mother when the world walked past her. Now I will give you back what the world stole from you." Madame Margaret nodded in firm agreement. "God has joined us together for a reason." She smiled, her weak hands still warm. "You will be my daughter in every way that matters." Amara could not hold back her tears. They fell heavy and fast onto the polished marble floor. For the first time in years, she was not standing alone. But she did not know that this was only the beginning. that her kindness had opened a door far bigger than she ever imagined. Because while Amara was wiping her tears in the mansion far across the city, Aunt Adana and Uncle Namdi sat counting the money they had stolen, not knowing that their names were about to resurface in a way that would shake their greedy world apart. The night air at the mansion was calm, but inside Amara's heart, storms were still raging. She sat on the balcony with Madame Margaret, gazing at the city lights far away. For once, she wasn't listening to the angry rumble of traffic beneath a bridge. She was listening to the gentle voice of a woman who now called her daughter. "You will sleep in this house tonight," Margaret said softly, her frail hand resting over Amara's. "No more dust. No more cold ground. You belong here now?" Amara smiled faintly, though her eyes glistened with tears. "I don't deserve this." "Yes, you do," Margaret whispered. "God lifts the humble, and sometimes kindness is the only key to a locked future." But far across Lagos, in a cramped apartment filled with cigarette smoke and the smell of cheap gin, Aunt Adana and Uncle Namdi were counting crisp bundles of money. "Do you see Namdi?" Adana's voice was sharp with pride. "We sold the house and no one stopped us. That girl is probably dead by now. Beggars don't last long." Namdi smirked, pouring himself another drink. "Dead or alive, she's no threat. Who will believe a street rat story against us? We own her silence." Adana leaned back, her head tie slipping slightly. "Good, because the more she disappears from this world, the better for us." But they did not know that destiny had other plans, and their stolen secrets were already beginning to crawl back into the light. The next morning, Anderson walked into the living room, where Amara sat nervously on the edge of a cream-colored sofa. He was tall, commanding, dressed in a simple white shirt with rolled sleeves, but his eyes were focused, sharp, like a man who never wasted words. "I've made arrangements," he said. "You will have a private tutor. We'll prepare you for the university entrance exam. If medicine is your dream, then medicine it will be." Amara's eyes widened. Her lips trembled. "You would do that for me?" Anderson leaned forward slightly. "You saved my mother when she was at death's door. Tell me, what is that worth? Money can't buy it. So yes, Amara, I will do it because your kindness deserves a future." Amara lowered her face into her palms, sobbing quietly. "I don't know how to thank you." Margaret, watching from her chair, smiled. "Thank him by becoming everything your parents wanted you to be. Rise so high that those who betrayed you will have no choice but to bow to the God that raised you." The words struck Amara's chest like a promise carved into stone. Weeks passed. Amara studied with intensity, her mind sharper than her torn clothes had ever suggested. She devoured every textbook, solved every problem, practiced late into the night under the soft glow of a lamp in the mansion's guest room. Anderson sometimes paused at her door, watching quietly, half in admiration, half in awe. But her past was not done with her. One evening, as Amara walked to the mansion's gate to receive a package from the delivery man, she froze. Across the street, she saw a face she could never forget. Aunt Adana. Adana's eyes widened, recognition flashing like lightning. For a moment she stood frozen, her mouth slightly open. Then her lips curled into a sharp, mocking smile. "Well, well," Adana said, crossing the road slowly, her heels clicking against the pavement. "So the street rat learned how to climb walls." Amara's throat went dry. "Auntie, don't call me that," Adana hissed, glancing at the tall gates of the mansion. "What are you doing here? Who did you trick to bring you into a place like this?" "I didn't trick anyone," Amara said quietly, clutching the package tighter. "I helped someone, and now God is helping me." Adana's laughter was cold. "Help? You think kindness feeds you?" "No. Money does, and that money will never belong to you." She leaned closer, her voice dropping. "Be careful, Amara. If you think you can rise above me, I will drag you back to the mud where you belong." The mansion gates opened, and Anderson stepped out. His sharp gaze moved from Amara to the older woman standing before her. "Is there a problem here?" Adana's eyes flickered nervously, but her pride kept her rooted. "No problem. I was just greeting my niece and Presus niece. Anderson repeated, his voice edged with suspicion. Amara lowered her head, her lips trembling. Yes, this is my aunt. Anderson's eyes hardened. He recognized something dangerous in the woman's tone, something greedy. Protective instinct flared inside him. He stepped closer to Amara, his presence towering. If you are her family, Anderson said firmly, then you should be ashamed. A family protects its own. They do not throw them to the streets. Leave now, and do not come near her again. Adana's lips tightened. Her pride stung, but the mansion gates were closing, and Anderson's eyes were unyielding. She turned sharply on her heels and walked away, muttering under her breath. Amara stood shaking, her chest tight with old memories clawing back. Anderson placed a steady hand on her shoulder. Don't be afraid. They cannot harm you anymore. Not while I'm here. But in her heart, Amara knew it wasn't over. If Adana had seen her here, if Nami heard of it, they would not rest until they found a way to poison her rising light. That night, as she sat at her desk, trying to focus on equations and diagrams, Amara's hand shook around her pen. Her mind wasn't on the pages anymore. It was on the shadow of her aunt's smile. She didn't know that, in a dimly lit apartment across Lagos, Adana and Anamdi were already plotting their next move. And this time, it wouldn't be just threats. It would be war. The first light of dawn spilled into Amara's room. She sat at her study desk, her notes spread wide, her pen moving fast across the page. Dark circles rested under her eyes, but her spirit burned bright. The entrance exams were just weeks away, and she was determined not to waste the chance Anderson had given her. From the balcony, Anderson watched silently. He leaned against the railing, his white shirt unbuttoned at the collar. Every night when the mansion grew quiet, he often found himself there, watching Amara, admiring her focus, her strength, her unbroken will. Something inside him stirred, something he could not yet name, but could no longer ignore. Margaret noticed too. She sat in her wheelchair by the window, her wise eyes following her son. You care for her more than you realize, she whispered. Anderson turned quickly, his face tightening. Mama, please. I was once young too, she said with a faint smile. I know the look of a man who has found what his heart has been searching for. Anderson said nothing, but his silence spoke louder than words. Across the city, Adana and Numi were not silent. She's living in Anderson's mansion, Adana hissed, slamming a cup of tea onto their wooden table. That girl we threw away is now in his house like she belongs there. Num frowned, his eyes narrowing. If Anderson has taken her in, it means she's worth something to him. And if she's worth something to him, then she's a threat to us. Adana leaned forward, her voice sharp as a knife. We can't allow her to rise. If she becomes a doctor, if she gains power, she will come back for us. She will expose everything. What do you suggest? Namdi asked slowly. Adana's lips curled. We take back control. We'll spread the word that she's a liar, that she's using Anderson for money. We'll make him doubt her. And if that fails, her eyes gleamed. We still know men who can finish what they started. Namdi grunted in agreement. Good. Let her taste fear again. At the mansion, life moved forward. Amara's tutor praised her sharp mind. You have the makings of a top medical student, he told Anderson one evening. She is a natural. Her discipline is rare. Anderson's chest swelled with pride he didn't show. He only nodded. Make sure she gets every chance to succeed. But Amara wasn't blind. She saw the way Anderson's eyes lingered when she spoke passionately about medicine. She noticed how he always made sure her study lamp was working, how he left plates of food outside her door when she forgot to eat. She felt the warmth of his quiet presence, and with every small act, her heart grew heavier with something new, something dangerous, something beautiful. Still, she kept her focus on her books, reminding herself of her parents' dream. She wanted to make them proud in heaven. The storm came one humid afternoon. Amara had gone with Margaret to the garden, pushing her wheelchair gently along the tiled path. The air smelled of flowers and rain. Margaret reached up to touch Amara's cheek. My daughter, she said softly, You remind me of the girl I once was before life took so much. Strong, brave, gentle. Never lose that." Amara's throat tightened. "Mama, no one has ever called me their daughter like this. Thank you." Before Margaret could reply, the mansion gates clanged open. Security guards shouted. A crowd of people swarmed in. Neighbors, strangers, reporters holding cameras. They pointed, whispering harshly. "There she is," one man shouted. "That's the girl." She was caught stealing from her uncle's house. Amara froze, her hands tightening on the wheelchair. "What?" A woman's voice rang above the noise, loud and cruel. "That's Amara, my wicked niece." It was Adana. She stood at the gate, waving papers in her hand, her face twisted with false sorrow. "She ran away after stealing from us, and now she's deceiving Anderson with lies." The crowd murmured angrily. Some pointed. "So she's not an orphan. She's a thief." Amara's chest caved. "That's not true," she cried, her voice breaking. "They're lying. They stole everything from me." But the crowd didn't listen. The weight of their stares crushed her. For a moment it felt like the bridge all over again. People walking by, judging, never seeing the truth. Anderson stormed into the garden, his presence silencing the noise. His eyes blazed with fire as he stood between Amara and the crowd. "Enough!" he roared. The murmurs fell quiet. Even Adana's voice trembled under his fury. "This girl," Anderson said, his voice steady, "saved my mother's life when all of you walked past her. She gave her last meal to a dying woman when she herself had nothing. If you call her a thief, then she stole nothing but my respect and my trust, and I gave those freely." He turned to Adana, his eyes sharp. "As for you, woman, your lies end here. Do not mistake my silence for weakness. I know men like you and your husband, and I promise you, the truth will always rise above your greed." The crowd shifted uneasily. Cameras clicked. Adana's face hardened, but fear flickered in her eyes. She turned sharply and left, her curses trailing behind her. The gates closed. Silence returned. But Amara sank to her knees, shaking, tears falling fast. "Why won't they let me live in peace?" Anderson knelt beside her, his hand firm on her shoulder. "Because your light blinds them, but you will not be broken again." Margaret reached down from her wheelchair, her hand trembling as it touched Amara's face. "My daughter, this is only the beginning. When destiny calls, enemies will rise. But destiny always wins." Amara looked between the mother and son, her heart swelling with a mix of fear, gratitude, and something she dared not name. But in the shadows, Adana and Namdi were not finished, and this time, they would strike where it hurt most. The accusations did not end at the mansion gates. By morning, newspapers carried Adana's lies, splashing Amara's face beside bold headlines. "Street girl or gold digger?" The whispers grew loud, and the pressure pressed down heavy on her shoulders. Amara sat in the mansion library, her books untouched, her eyes swollen from sleepless nights. "Maybe I should leave," she whispered to herself. "I don't want to ruin Anderson's name." The door opened. Anderson stepped in carrying 2 mugs of tea. He set one before her, then sat across from her. His gaze was calm, but firm. "Say that again," he said. Amara looked down. "Maybe if I go, the lies will stop. You deserve peace." Anderson leaned forward. "Peace without you is not peace. Do you think I built a company, faced rivals, fought battles just to be shaken by rumors? No, Amara. The truth doesn't bow to lies, and neither should you." Her lips trembled, but she said nothing. Anderson reached across the table, taking her hands gently in his. "Look at me." She lifted her eyes slowly. "You are not leaving. You are not running. You saved my mother's life when no one else cared. You will save many more when you wear that white coat. And I will fight anyone who tries to steal your dream." For the first time in weeks, a faint smile touched Amara's lips. The exam day arrived. The Lagos University Hall buzzed with hundreds of students, pens clicking, papers rustling. Amara sat in the middle row, her heart thudding, her hands shaking slightly. She closed her eyes for a moment, whispering a silent prayer. "Papa, Mama, guide me." Then she picked up her pen, and she wrote. Hours later, she walked out with a weight lifted. For the first time in years, she felt certain. She had given it her all. Weeks passed before the results came. Anderson himself brought the envelope to her room. "Open it," he urged, his voice betraying a rare nervousness. Amara's fingers trembled as she tore it open. Her eyes scanned the page, then widened, filling with tears. "I passed," she whispered. "I got in. Medicine surgery." Anderson's face broke into the widest smile she had ever seen. He lifted her off the floor in one sweeping hug. "You did it." Margaret, watching from her chair, clapped her hands together, tears spilling freely. My daughter, the doctor, 5 years later. The hall erupted in applause as Amara, now 24, walked across the stage in her graduation gown, her smile radiant, her heart pounding. She received the medal for Best Graduating Student. Cameras flashed, voices cheered. Anderson and Margaret sat in the front row, clapping until their hands ashed. Margaret's chest swelled with pride as tears streamed down her cheeks. That evening, back at the mansion, Anderson led Amara to the balcony. The city lights stretched before them, twinkling like a sky turned upside down. "You've done what you once thought impossible," he said softly. "You became a doctor." Amara turned to him, her eyes shimmering. "Because you believed in me when I had nothing." Anderson paused, his throat tight. Then slowly he pulled out a small velvet box. Amara gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "Amara," he said, his voice unsteady, but full of conviction. "You gave me back my mother. You gave me hope. I don't just want to walk this life with you. I want to build it with you. Will you marry me?" Tears poured down Amara's face. She nodded, unable to speak. Finally, in a choked whisper, she said, "Yes. 1,000 times. Yes." Behind them, Margaret, who had quietly followed, wiped her eyes with trembling hands. "God, you are faithful," she whispered. Then she wheeled forward, placing her hands over theirs. "My children, my joy is full." The wedding was grand. The church overflowed with guests, chandeliers glowing above white roses and golden ribbons. As the doors opened, Margaret walked Amara down the aisle, her steps slow but steady, her face radiant with tears. Anderson stood at the altar, his eyes locked on Amara, his heart racing. When Amara finally spoke her vows, the hall fell into silence. "Today," she said, her voice breaking with emotion, "I'm not only marrying the man I love, I'm marrying the son of the woman I once fed with the little food I had. That act of kindness gave me a second chance at life. You gave me back my dream, my dignity, and my future. And I promise, as long as I breathe, to love and honor you." Tears flowed freely down every face in the church. 4 years later, after many prayers and tears, Amara and Anderson finally welcomed a baby boy. They named him Richard. When Margaret held her grandson in her arms, she broke down completely, her gray hair glowing in the sunlight streaming through the window. "Kindness," she whispered through sobs. "Kindness gave me back my son, and kindness gave me a grandson." Amara, watching her, pressed her face against Anderson's shoulder. From the dust of the underbridge to the light of a mansion, from hunger to healing, from loss to love, her story had been rewritten. And it all began with a single plate of jollof rice. If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.